Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. If you've been following my channel any amount of time now, you know that I've been doing Star Wars EU book studies. I am a literature professor, so I don't just like to do a book club. I call them book studies. Not that we go too terribly in depth, no one's assigned papers to write or anything like that. But me and my co-host Big Al do like to enjoy the books, talk about what's going on in them, and point out good literary moves, but also just celebrating the real deal Star Wars. The EU, we had decades of authors who just truly loved that original trilogy. And, titles in the EU will be hit or miss in terms of quality now and then, but the spirit of it, every single book just truly remains true to the spirit of the original trilogy. And it really shows when you read the EU, whether it's a book, a comic, video games, some of the little videos that were made. It's just amazing. It's amazing. And all of that has just been, boom, canceled. No more of that by Disney. Disney's doing their own thing now, which isn't working out all that great for them. If you're like me, you're not a fan of any of the new content that Disney's putting out. But we still, as I said, we have decades worth of amazing, all shared universe, continuity content here that we can look at. So I've been doing book studies of different books. Now I am somewhat limited though. And I will say, do stay tuned to the end of the video at this point, because I do have a link, an Audible link for you to get a free trial Audible file, and that plays into what I'm about to say now, and I do recommend you take me up on that, because then you can easily join us for this next book, Shatterpoint, that we're going to be doing. But we have been somewhat limited because Al, my co-host, he's got some medical issues and whatnot he's talked about, but to keep up with the book study at our pace, to read it that quickly, he needs to have a hard copy to read, but also the audio version to listen into. And that's a problem if you're an EU fan, because other than some of the more recent books that had been released, recent before they canceled and stopped the EU, a lot of the classics were only released in abridged versions. I don't know why that ever even started to be a thing, why somebody would just release abridged versions of audio works. I guess maybe because originally they were books on tape with cassettes or something, the amount of space. I don't know. But Disney is doing something now. I guess they got tired of their High Republic stuff not selling very well, and they are re-releasing now. For a couple years, they've re-released 3 or 4 EU books. About twice a year they'll do this. Now, hard copy wise, they re-release it with their Legends banner, and sometimes the art looks pretty cool or whatnot. If you're like me, you see my collection behind me. I've been trying to collect the EU books in the original versions, the original without the Legend stuff, hardcovers whenever possible. And sometimes that can be a job, trying to find a price on this one or this or that book. Some of these little paperback books in particular that weren't ever released in hardcover are really priced like $50 or something, just to find this one, because they didn't print that many of them. And I'll find like old library books, library bound, good prices. Anyway, so if somebody just wants to follow along with the title, at least Disney's re-releasing these in paperback and they're a little easier to obtain. But whenever Disney re-releases an old EU book and updated or whatever, they will go, and if the Audible version, if they had an audio version that was abridged, they'll re-release a unabridged audio version. I've been really enjoying the X-Wing series because Mark Thompson has recorded an unabridged wonderful recording of those books, and it's got the music, the Star Wars, the John Williams theme, it's got the sound effects and stuff like that. It's not an audio drama, it's an audible audio book, but it's somewhere in between with all the music and effects and everything. And Mark Thompson can do these voices wonderfully. So it's really great. That's good news that we are getting some of the old audiobooks that were only released in abridged versions. We're getting unabridged versions, which is great. Now, I have mentioned, you guys, if you follow the studies, you know that for a while now I've been talking about the possibility of doing Shatterpoint. And this is the book we're going to be doing. We're not going to start it this Tuesday. We'll start next Tuesday. I'll explain about that in a second. But Shatterpoint by Matthew Stover, wonderful book. It does feature Mace Windu, takes place during the Clone War era. And Mace Windu, of course, as we recently heard, before Moses Ingram, there were no people of color, in Star Wars. So Mace Windu, clearly a white guy, But I did want to do this book long before that nonsense ever hit the current media there, because this book really made me appreciate Mace Windu as a Jedi. Wow, I loved him in the prequels, and when he'd show up in this or that book, or, I did watch the Clone Wars series before the nonsense season 7, and liked him when he showed up there. This novel, though, really showed me how aspirational Mace Windu was. It's a wonderful book. Now you see too there's Depa Balaba, and if you're a Rebels fan, first of all, my sympathies. But if you're a Rebels fan, you might know her as the Jedi Master, Kanan's Jedi Master. No, this is a different continuity. She had a very different story, a very different end. But of course, she was Mace Windu's Padawan originally. So this is a wonderful story about Mace Windu off on a mission, during the Clone Wars era, and he has to go and find Depa on this planet. We get a little bit of backstory of Mace. We find out a bit more of his childhood and whatnot. I'm just so impressed by him as a character, though. His self-control, his loyalty to the Jedi ideals, but the way that he also made them his own in a very personal way. The way he's a hero, true blue hero to the people around him. It's just wonderful. You really get to see him push to his limit, and you get to see a real hero story overcome. It's a wonderful story. So I'm a big fan of it, and I wanted to do it as a study. So we're going to go ahead and do that. This is one of the books that Disney had re-released, and I do have a link in the description below. If you like hardcovers, or if you like hard copies rather, you can pick this up very cheap, as a paperback, because Disney's re-released it, with their Legends banner. Or you can be like me, you can try and find a good hardcover, original edition, but that's hit or miss. But they've also released a wonderful audio version of it. It's read by Sullivan Jones. Hadn't been familiar with his audio work before this, but I like to read books, hardcover, but then I'll also reread them with an audio version sometimes. It's fun to hear somebody else interpret, the prose and the dialogue and whatnot. And if it's got great music and great sound effects and everything, it's like an audio drama of Star Wars content. It's not just that we're just stuck with books, as great as those are. So if you go to audibletrial.com/Professor Geek, you can get a free trial, and that free trial entitles you to a credit that you can spend on Shatterpoint. Whether or not you cancel or keep going with them, that book is yours. That book is yours. So you can get Shatterpoint on audio. If you're busy like me, maybe you don't have time to read so many chapters and follow along with us in this book study. A lot of people have said that. No shame. I tell my students this all the time. Look, life doesn't always let you have hours upon hours, especially if you're a slow reader like me. Yes, a literature professor is a slow reader. If you're like me, you don't always have time to keep up and reading a book, with so many pages a week or whatever. Audio versions are great for that. Audible versions that gone are the days where, you just listened to the audio. Oh, you didn't really read it. Then no. That's ridiculous. I tell my students all the time. It's a perfectly valid, viable option for you. So I do recommend, this won't cost you anything. You use my link, it's there on the screen, it's in the description below, audibletrial.com/Professor Geek. You can get basically a free copy of the Audible Shatterpoint. Wonderful, wonderful, unabridged story, read well by Matthew Stover, read well by Sullivan Jones. It's just wonderful. So please do join us on this adventure. It's going to be a lot of fun. For those who've been following along, we talk about what's going on. We delve a little bit deep. We'll be looking at Mace Windu and his particular heroism. Is he aspirational? Because we know how he ends in episode 3, of course. So it's going to be a great time. But if you've never joined us, this is a great book to start on. It truly is. You don't need to have read any books in the EU before this. If you've seen the prequels, that's all I would recommend seeing the prequels. Episode 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, Anakin, and all of that. I'd recommend doing that. But even if you hadn't read those or seen that, you could still follow this quite well. For the first study, we are going to read. There's a little intro that doesn't count as one of the chapters, and the intro is entitled "Dangerously Sane," and then we're going to read the first 2 chapters. So in my edition here, that's about 68, 69 pages. It's not much. It's a chunk though. So if you're listening along, you can handle that quite easily. And that's what we'll do. Again, not this Tuesday. This Tuesday, Al and I are going to discuss the audio drama of Tales of the Jedi. That is not the nonsense series that Dave Filoni is going to be doing now. No. Tales of the Jedi, with the logo that he pillaged from it and everything, is actually a wonderful comic series from the 90s. And this comic series, Tales of the Jedi, was the first time anybody went back and tried to tell the grand history of the Jedi in the Star Wars universe, centuries, before the original trilogy. It's a wonderful thing. In fact, because of Tales of the Jedi, the comic series that they gave us, that's why we had Knights of the Old Republic, the video game, and then those comics and sequels and everything that were wonderful. I will be releasing a review soon on the Tales of the Jedi comics. But until then, I do recommend that you join us on Tuesday because there's an audio drama as well. It doesn't interpret all of the Tales of the Jedi comics, but it gets the main arcs with Ulic Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider and so forth. So Al and I were going to talk about the audio drama on this Tuesday. But next Tuesday, a week from Tuesday, we will start the Shatterpoint, Star Wars Shatterpoint book study. So I hope you can join us. Do check out my link again, audibletrial.com/Professor Geek, and you can grab yourself a free Audible copy of that. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue heroes that you love best. Thanks for watching.